The Cromwellian Lieutenant General, Edmund Ludlow, is remembered for what he said of the Burren in County Clare during counter-guerrilla operations there in 1652. He said, "It is a country where there is not enough water to drown a man, wood enough to hang one, nor earth enough to bury him, and yet their cattle are very fat."
You are very welcome to the Burren Slow Food Festival 2021. This festival has been running now since 2005, and this year it's taking place virtually in a variety of locations around the Burren and Cliffs of Moher UNESCO Global Geopark. We have brought together pairs of producers and chefs from various locations in the area who will join in conversations that celebrate the food and drink produced and created here on the fertile rock in the Burren. Today we are in the beautiful surroundings of Gregan's Castle Hotel at the foot of the Corkscrew Hill, right here in the heart of the Burren. I'm delighted to be meeting with Birgitta Curtin of the Burren Smokehouse and Robbie McCauley of Gregan's Castle Hotel itself. Both of these businesses are founding members of the award-winning Burren Ecotourism Network and the Burren Food Trail, and both have been champions of slow food in the region for a number of years. Birgitta, it's been more than 30 years since you moved to the Burren.
So I arrived here in the Burren about more than 40 years ago, and together with my husband, Peter Curtin, who's from Listonvarna, we started the Burren Smokehouse Limited in Listonvarna. We have been smoking all 100% Irish salmon, mackerel, trout and eel here in the Burren. We have a visitor centre that we started in the early 90s, and we've been welcoming people from all over the world since then.
It's been an amazing journey. And Robbie, just to welcome you as well, you've come from further afield too.
Yeah, no, I've only been here now for a few years, so I'm originally from Edinburgh, so it's a bit of a change from Edinburgh to the wildness of the west, but it's nice now. Been in Gregan's now since 2013, came back in 2018 after a couple of years away, but glad to be back and back cooking.
I do know that the relationship between these two businesses is one of the longest partnerships between chefs and restaurants in the Burren. Is that true, Birgitta?
It actually started before we formally had Burren Smokehouse Limited. So back in 1987, we worked with Peter Hayden, and he was delighted to work with local produce, and part of his philosophy was work with everything that it comes from around here, same as ourselves. And 1987, we actually got a mention in the New York Times magazine because we supplied the Gregan's Castle. The article was about Gregan's Castle, and we got that mention in it. And it was, at the time, it was just amazing to get that acknowledgement internationally.
Robbie, what would you say is the secret to success of collaborations like yours between a chef and a producer?
I mean, we're so lucky because obviously the Smokehouse and many others, it's really great to have people who pride themselves on what they do and the produce that they produce. I mean, there's no point trying to cook with subpar produce, but when you've got fantastic produce and the fact then it's been produced local makes everything much easier. Also, we're very lucky that we can pick up the phone and talk to them rather than having to talk to just a rep. You can talk directly to who's producing it and they'll tailor it to us. So we've been very lucky to even like the smoked eel to be able to get that.
Robbie, you said something interesting there about the pride that the producers have in their work. And Birgitta, I've heard you mention something similar as well about being really proud of each other and what each other does.
I mean, it's so amazing to be able to bring family and friends here to Gregan's Castle to showcase our own products, being beautifully presented by Robbie here. And also, I mean, even down to our 30th year in business, we did a celebration, and we especially came down here to Gregan's to celebrate that. So it's a complete circle. We supply the produce, Robbie presents us beautifully on a plate, and then we can come and enjoy it. It's amazing.
So your relationship works on many levels, Birgitta. There's the commercial side, the community and the personal, and that really reminds me of the ethos behind the whole slow food movement. And, that was set up here as far back as 2005, and you were one of the founders. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So the slow food movement, we met in 2004, a group of people from producers and chefs, and a man called Michael Gleason as well, went out to Turin to learn about the slow food ethos that Carlo Petrini started up. It's a movement about good, clean and fair. So really good food, clean food, and a fair price to the producers. So sustainability is very much part of it. And for us, it was like meeting something that we're doing already here in the Burren. And it really gave us a sense of community and also international connections with what we're doing. So slow food is what we're all about.
Robbie, those values from the slow food movement of good, clean and fair, I know that they're values upheld here in Gregan's Castle Hotel, but I am always amazed by the creativity and the magic that you can bring to, you know, those values, the ingredients that come from the local people, and turning that into a story on the plate or the taste of the place. Can you tell us a little bit about what you have prepared for us there already?
Yeah, so whenever it comes to doing a new dish, we always try to see what's best in season and what's growing around us. Today now we've paired Birgitta's beautiful smoked eel with some locally caught scallops, cauliflower and some shore herbs, and then we're just finishing it with sauce made from wild leeks, which we forage locally, and the smoked eel. So, oh yeah.
Ooh, this looks amazing. All from grade A waters here. The combination of the flavors here are absolutely gorgeous. You have the leek oil, really goes so well with the scallops and the eel, because there's a huge delicateness in very delicate flavors, all of the seafood, and it's just brought up by the herbs like dill and the leek oil. So absolutely delicious.
Are those herbs gathered from the Burren?
Yeah, so the wild leeks that we get growing throughout the barn, so we use them this time of year that they're at their best. So we preserve them through pickling and making vinegars with them, which we've used to pickle some of the cauliflower. Then we've got the sea porcelain, which we're lucky enough to be able to forage for down in Glenina.
Wow, that sea porcelain works so well with it. And it's quite a delicate, you know, it's not overpowering. It's just a very delicate, it just brings out the flavour of the seafood itself.
Yeah, it's just got that
Love
nice
that.
little salty notes of it, so rounds off the dish.
And then you have a bit of salmon caviar as well. Wow.
Robbie, as you're sharing there about gathering all this rich abundance of herbs and plants and vegetables from the Burren, it reminds me of a question I come across often, where people see images of this, you know, vast expanse of rock and say, you know, how does anybody live there? Like a really simple question like that. Or another question is, you know, where does the food come from when you hear about Burren food? And that whole idea of the fertile rock, it's really quite intriguing, isn't it? I mean, how does that direct the way you shape your menu?
Yeah, it really is, but when you look at the barren landscape, it's crazy to think of it as a fertile rock. There's so much meat produced now, there's fish being smoked, there's cheeses being produced, and it's mad just how many artisan producers we have in such a small area. And then as well, we're surrounded by amazing grade A seas.
Yeah, you say it's kind of mad, Robbie, but Birgitta, I would we've had this conversation before, that the idea of the fertile rock, it's not just a clever catchphrase, it's something that was actually born in the Burren over 1,000 years ago. It's a fascinating story.
Yeah, because of the richness of the soils. I mean, the herbs, the Cistercian monks were growing, and all the growing in what that was going on in the Burren thousands of years ago. It's extraordinary that we're continuing on that heritage, in fact, now. I mean, the complexity of the grasses causes the milk to taste different, the meat to taste different, all the beef and lamb that is produced here. It's absolutely fabulous.
That idea of the fertile rock, it's the theme of this year's Burren Slow Food Festival. And to be honest, I used to think that was a clever book title or, you know, a handy marketing slogan, until one day I was in Kirkham Abbey, and there, inscribed on the wall of the abbey from 1,000 years ago, there's this saying in Latin, Santa Maria de Petra Fertilis, and it's dedicated to Mary of the Fertile Rock. That was an amazing moment when I realised that, Birgitta. It really gives us a context for the scale and expanse of this Burren food story, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean, Kirkham Abbey was one of the first places that I did come to visit, you know, and to see the landscape around it and see the stone carvings inside Kirkham Abbey itself, you know, the spirituality of the place, the richness of the soil. I mean, it's so obvious there, and it's wonderful to feel that we have a connection through thousands of years to growing and the richness of the Burren.
Robbie, you weren't even born when Birgitta started dealing with Gregan's apparently, but what do you think of that legacy of 1,000 years?
Definitely the sustainability of farming and producing in the Burren. Sadly was lost for a while, but it's great to see it coming back, and more producers and more farmers are getting behind it. And the Slow Food Festival and the Burren Food Trail have been at the forefront and leading it. So it's great to be part of.
And thank you for joining us here at the 2021 Burren Slow Food Festival. I hope you'll join us for the other conversations in the series, and for now, I'm delighted to introduce you to Oliver O'Connell and Michael Hines, local Clare musicians who'll play us out from Gregan's Castle Hotel in the heart of the Burren and Cliffs of Moher Geopark.
Lori, go hanu wa har fad.